Felix, the governor, who's an extremely brutal governor, who's portrayed there, is eliciting, he's married to an Herodian princess called Drusilla. It's all in the book of Acts and Josephus. You want to get this stuff really down, you got to read the book of Acts together with Josephus. You can't just read the book of Acts. You can't just read Josephus, because Josephus isn't covering all the episodes that the book of Acts is covering. But if you've read Josephus carefully and the book of Acts, a lot will firm up in your mind about what's taking place in this country. Okay? And you, as I did last time, you really have to read Paul in many ways before you read the Gospels. Because those sections I read you last time from Galatians, backed up in my materials in Romans, show there's a very strong argument going on within the church itself between the James party and the Paul party. I don't even think it is a strong argument, because the James party is in control and Paul is an obstreperous outsider who has no following within the church itself, but only overseas in the communities as he's set down. For instance, to back up that point, I'll look at Galatians 1 here. As he says here, Paul, an apostle, not from men nor by men. Now, we're reading this in the 20th century in Long Beach, Los Angeles County, and Orange County, California. Doesn't mean anything to us, not from men by men. Oh, but it's very important. It just sounds like pretty language to us. What do you mean something by that? I didn't get appointed by Jesus in his lifetime. And I don't take my appointment from the leadership in Jerusalem of the Jerusalem church. That is, I didn't take my appointment from James and his party. That's all there. But if you don't know the circumstances or the background situation, oh yeah, no, Paul, an apostle, not from men nor by men, but through Jesus Christ, or Christ Jesus, as he put it here. Jesus Christ. Now, Jesus Christ is another character other than Jesus. Jesus Christ is not the historical Jesus who we're looking for. He may turn out to be the same. But in Paul's mind, it's another being. What being is it? It's a supernatural being in heaven. How does he get an appointment from Jesus Christ? Through visions. He said, I don't care what you people say about my apostolic credentials. You don't control the show. Christ Jesus in heaven, he controls the show, and I've got a direct line to him. I'm paraphrasing to show you how this would appear to others who knew Jesus on earth. Now, suppose I was one of Jesus' close companions on earth, and I saw this guy with a Roman citizenship, with bags full of money, doesn't want to observe the law of Moses and so on and so forth, suddenly come in and tell me that he's a representative of Christ Jesus. And I knew Christ Jesus on earth. Okay, maybe Christ Jesus did, he wasn't called Christ Jesus at that time. Christ is the title, Hellenized title for the Messiah. Maybe he did teach some of these things. Well, that's what this course is about. Maybe he didn't. But the point is, I'm sure he didn't teach all those things. And if I knew that this guy was going around like that, I would be infuriated. In fact, I'd probably want to go after him if I was one of the close companions or a family member. And that's some of the things you get behind the background of the issues here. I want to keep on. I want to keep on about this thing. We'll finish this. So through Christ Jesus and God the Father who raised him from the dead. So, and all the brothers with me, whoever they may be, to the churches of Galatia, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so he sounds like a good start in terms of announcing his credentials. Let me just tell you that there are other documents that didn't get into the New Testament. Why are always banging concrete out there? Whenever they're having classes here. Why didn't they finish that work in the summer? What's their problem? Anyway.
Like 18 months.
Yes. I mean, well, I feel like I'm building the temple, you know. So, look, there are other works that you probably have never, many of you who came to this college have heard of, because we have two people who are very interested in these documents. But in most places, no one's ever paid any attention to them. They're called the Pseudo-Clementines. I mentioned them already once or twice. There are two versions, one called the Recognitions, and the other, I don't know why they have these different names. They're just Hellenistic romance novels in two alternative versions. But they seem to go back to the same source as Acts. They're parallel Acts, but they're from an anti-Paul point of view. They're from a pro-James point of view, and in fact a pro-Peter, because Peter is portrayed as a follower, or at least someone who follows James in almost everything that he does. Now, that's not the normal presentation of the church as we know it. Not even Protestantism does that, because Protestantism has inherited the Bible that the original church compiled in the 300s. And the book of Acts is part and parcel of that. So this is what you'd call an anti-Acts. Now, we're not doing it to be difficult. The point is that in both these two documents, you cannot be an apostle without authorization from the Jerusalem church. That is the Jerusalem community. Church is not a little building. It's the Greek word ecclesia, and it means assembly, council, assembly. So we call it church or community. But you must have authorization from James. And there's one passage in the Supercomity Recognitions, I have it in the dedication to my James book. It says, shun any apostle, teacher, etc., 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 who does not compare his doctrines favorably with James, the brother of the Lord, and have nothing to do with such a person. And if you read, I don't have time in this passage, I do that Christian Origins passage, but if you read Corinthians 2 very carefully, you'll see Paul is very worried about his credentials. You see, I don't care about credentials. My credentials are you, my communities. I don't care about things written on stone, meaning the Ten Commandments of Moses. I'm not interested in written documents. I write upon your hearts. He's very good with the prose and the allegorical, symbolic prose and so on, because he's a highly trained rhetorician and polemicist in the Greco-Hellenistic school. So he's very effective in these ways. In the Greek world, you would call him a sophist, but he applies his sophistical training to theological matters. In any case, he says, and who are these other people with their credentials? Hebrews, are they? So we know that they're Hebrews. So am I. Super apostles? So am I. There's not a thing these super, meaning the apostles of the highest